3 books that have impacted my life. The first book being the Bible. I mentioned during our talk that the Bible is a record of the Jews. In the beginning, God didn't start with them as Israel. By the way, one needs to look at the map to see how small Israel is. And then you need to visit Israel to see how dry the land is. On this side of the road, you'll see sand. On this side, you'll see an orchard, green. You haven't seen green. And you look, and there's no cloud covering it. It is actually green because they've rebuilt it. The Bible is a big lesson. It's full of warnings. It's full of principles, principles of business, principles, ethical principles. It's full of laws that work. And the good thing is that the Bible was inspired by the Holy Spirit. When Jesus left, he said, I won't leave you alone. I'll leave you the Holy Spirit, who will teach you, who will guide you, who will remind you of what I've told you. So the Bible, that's book number 1. The second book I read, which impacted me, was a book by Ben Carson, Dr. Ben Carson, the neurosurgeon. Think big. It's not the thinking big, but it is his story of his life. Ben Carson was a black boy. He's a black man now, but he grew up as a black boy, son of a single mother. Very similar to Barack Obama. And how his mother sat down with him and taught him. And the mother was illiterate, but she would read their homework and make them study. Starting from small beginnings. Sometimes people despise the small beginnings. A mustard seed is really tiny, but if you see the tree, you won't believe it started from a mustard seed. Ben Carson's book was full of lessons to me about how not to give up. Now he's one of the top neurosurgeons in the world. You wouldn't know the humble beginnings they started from. And the impact of their mother. Their mother was illiterate, but she'd sit down to read their homework. She would open the book, and it's that diligence of looking and checking, opening. They believed their mother was looking and reading their book. She didn't know how to read. That one has impacted me because it's a bit like the story of my life. And the third book is the book I've talked about, Post-Traumatic Slavery Syndrome, which is a book that explains in greater detail what I've just been talking about how the Africans in the US, African Americans, how they are affected by the experience of slavery. I think the reason why this book was very impactful for me is because I hadn't had someone tell the story of what actually happened in some of the farms where the slaves were working, and how people would bring up children just to expect the worst. Bringing up a girl, as she grew up, she was told to expect that the day will come when she will be called to the master's house when they have a party and there are many men, and how those men are going to rape her, how her body is going to tear, how she's going to bleed. It's like they had given up and expected it. So it's not that aspect that I want, the bleeding and the abuse. But people have to expect that life is going to be hard. Those women lived, so when the day came, the girl just knew it was going to happen. Mothers prepared people to know that it will be bad, it will be horrible, but you will live. Just take your mind off the pain. So when Jesus went to the cross, he knew that it was going to be painful. He knew. And that's why he cried, Father, why do you forsake me? I'm not saying that that is comparable with the story of the young girl whose body was brutalized. But we have to prepare to sacrifice something. It will be hard. It won't be interesting. It will be very unpleasant. Because now we are starting to roll our African, we're pushing the car uphill. Our economy is down. We don't have the pioneers who are used to hard life to help show us and encourage us on. We are going on memories. We are going on, resoluteness. But we need to be able to know that we will have to work hard. We will have to go without food. And when you want to develop something, you have to sacrifice something. You may have to go on 1 meal a day. Some people think that is hard. Some people go on 2 meals a week and they don't die. They just, lose some weight, which isn't a bad thing sometimes. But that one, the story of Ben Carson, was important for me. So those are 3 books that I think are very important. If someone didn't read anything else, just read those 3. And read it with an open mind, non-judgmental. Don't look at the Ben Carson who, was supporting so-and-so in the elections. And look at the Ben Carson as he's growing and put yourself in his shoes. Autobiographies are very important. If you were to read 2 other books, one of the books that I would recommend, and I really wish there were more autobiographies by African women, people like Michelle Obama, but we need more books by ordinary women. We need more books by women who are not wives of presidents, so that people can see that I don't have to do that to become a wife of a president. We need books by ordinary women. I wish we could read more books by African Luo women. I wish more Luo women would write books of their lives. I wish people like Phoebe Asio could write the story of her life. I wish some of them would take other young girls under their arm and mentor them. Times have changed. The challenges have changed. Not everyone has to go in politics. Some women can go in just as Luo women business people. Some women can write books just as a good Luo woman teacher, and so that young people have principles that they aspire for. I personally will write a book about my father, Joseph Ouma, because Ouma Muga started from very humble beginnings. Very, very humble beginnings. And his father died when he was 16. So, trading in cows with him and his mother in Tanzania, and just studying with a kerosene lamp and just excelling in for O-level and A-level exams, topping in East Africa. And you'd think that he had a big, uncle behind him or father. He didn't have any father figure. His father was God, and he's gone back to his father now. And because he's gone back to his father, he's left us a legacy. And it's that legacy I will write about. So we need to write books about our lives. Our lives, I believe that it's more important to write your eulogy while you're alive, and let that eulogy be a book of principles and warnings and guideposts. And that's what I miss in Luoland. I miss books that people could have written about their life, about Luo women, so that I model myself after some Luo women who actually made it. Because the younger generation behind us need to see that Luo women have made it. Luo women were not just cooking in the home. That was an important one. We maintained our homes. But we have had Luo women leaders. We have had Luo women in great positions. But we don't read their books. If we can read it, I think that would be the next books I would recommend, because they're books that should be written. The graves and yards are full of books. They're full of libraries of books that were never written, songs that were never written, medical breakthroughs that were never made, simply because people died and went to the grave with their own books. So that's why I'm very happy that forums like Africanus can be able to document them, but we need to document them fast, and we need to document them so that the young people can read them. Yeah, that's what I can say about books. Africanus.